In this After Effects video, we're going to learn 4 motion graphic techniques. Hey, what's going on the internet? This is Daniel from the Motion Graphics channel. So the title says it all. We're going to learn 4 motion graphic techniques that you can use in any After Effects project when working with motion graphics. These are 4 types of motion graphics that I like to use in pretty much every pro project. And the first motion graphic technique that I would like to start off with is animated lines. These can be used as nice animated design elements to showcase what's important in your composition. Alright, the line technique is very simple, but what you're gonna want to do is grab the pen tool here at the top and you want to click on the word fill and set it to none and click OK and click on the word stroke and you'll set the solid color and click OK. And you can change your stroke width, but we can get back to that in a second, so you click a point. You can hold down Shift on your keyboard and just draw a curved line like this, and you can continue to expand on this just like that. So now we have this line in here. No big deal. So now what we want to do is animate this line so we can open up our shape layer. We'll go to add and we're going to add a trim paths, and we'll move back to the beginning of our timeline and we'll open up trim paths 1 and we'll set the end percentage to 0%. We can add a keyframe for the end. We can move forward in time. Maybe we'll do like 2 seconds and we'll set it up to 100%. Now we go back. Maybe to frame 10 or so, and we'll add a keyframe for start and we'll move past the last and keyframe by like 10 seconds or so and we'll set it down to 0%. So now you'll have this nice animation in line just like this right inside of your composition. And what we can do is make all the keyframes easy keyframes fighting F9 our keyboard. We can open up shape 1. We'll go to the stroke 1 where it says line cap is set, the butt cap will set it to round cap. There's a lot of caps right there, and so to round out the edges. So now you have this one line that's animated just like this, and say we want to add a bunch of other ones here really quick. What we can do is duplicate this. So what we'll do is we'll open up our line to here. We can delete the shape 1 and we're going to have the pen tool again, and we can just draw some minor lines, and we can just draw some minor lines in here. Click off, select line 2 again, and this is a really quick way to just add some extra short lines, and they're going to have the same animation speed as the main line. So what we can do is just hit U on our keyboard to bring up the keyframes, and we can bring in the last 2 keyframes. So these smaller lines are much quicker than obviously the much bigger line, right? So if you want to continue to expand on this, you can duplicate these, delete all the current lines in here. So just hit U and bring up each of the shape lines. You can delete them and you can just, start over. So here's our lines that we quickly created and added a lot more detail to our composition. The next technique I like to use often is the explosion. I've used this a lot in my last few tutorials, but the explosion is simply just an accent motion graphic that show up on your screen just for a couple of seconds. It explodes and then it evaporates. Alright, so next we're going to create the animated explosions, and this is very easy to do. So we'll come into our tools here at the top and we're going to grab the ellipse tool now. Just like before, we're going to turn off the fill and keep the stroke turned on. And from here we'll just draw out a perfect circle. You can hold down Shift on your keyboard to make sure that everything is a circle, and boom, there's our circle. So what we'll do here is go into the ellipse 1 and we'll move to a certain point in time. So maybe we'll just move past it just a second here. We'll open up stroke 1 and we'll add a keyframe for stroke width, and we'll move forward just by a few frames here, and we'll set the stroke width down to 0, so that's just going to disappear like that. And then what we'll do here is we'll go to our transform ellipse 1. We'll add a keyframe for scale, and we can move this keyframe to the last stroke with keyframe, and then set the scale down to 0%, and this will create just a very slow explosion. And of course we can just select all keyframes here at the end and just bring them in to speed it up. And of course, make them easy keyframes. So boom, there is one exploding circle like that. And obviously from here we want to just add a bunch of these. So what I suggest doing, trim out the out point here, and now this is the entire length of the circle. And what we'll do is we'll duplicate it and we can just move it around our composition just like this, and we can add a variety of these very quick, and to duplicate over to edit. Duplicate, and now we have our exploding circles covered around our composition, and just as a lot of animated detail to our composition. It looks really nice. So this concludes our second technique. One of my favorite motion graphic techniques is a repeated circle. What I mean by that is taking like a series of lines and you animate it around a circle. And you can use it as one motion graphic element. It's really nice for you to say also explosions, but also just for some nice accent around the entire composition. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So as our first technique, we're going to grab the pen tool and we're going to draw this from the center of our composition. So we can zoom in here and just click a point. Hold down Shift on the keyboard and draw a straight line up like that. So that looks good. So now we're going to do is open up our shape layer 1 and we're going to add a repeater, and we know Peter 1 and we can increase the number of copies. That's totally fine. we can open up a transformed repeater 1. And from here we're going to set the position down to 0, the X position. Then we're going to increase the rotation by like 20 degrees, and then we're going to the anchor point and we're going to grab the Y value and we're going to increase this value. So now we have a circular shape path just like this. So now we have these lines in here and we can go to layer and go to transform and click on. So anchor point and layer content, that puts the anchor point right in the middle, and then we can bring this right up into the middle of our composition. And we get extra keyboards for scale, and we can scale this up and we can do whatever we want with this. We get our keyboard's rotation. We can move forward here and rotate this. Then we can also maybe we can go back and do the trim paths if we want to do the explosion technique again, and set this down to 0%, add a keyframe for it, move forward to 100%. We'll do the start percentage as well. Make them easy keyframes, of course. And now you have a repeated animated path with your own custom object. You don't have to use lines for this, of course, use any other shape. But this is a nice way to just put everything in a nice circle and just another cool motion graphic technique. And lastly, the best motion graphic text to show that you did more work than you actually did is to quickly duplicate elements and to resize them and to vary it. The transform properties to fill up your composition and make it look like you did a lot of work. Let's take a look. So perhaps we'll grab the ellipse tool here, and I like working with circles, so we'll open this. Hold down Shift and keyboard and we can just go to the line tab and center this up. If you don't see the line tab, go up to window align, and I'm going to keep this in the center of our title. I like that, and we increase the stroke with what we want, Probably keep it around 30 or so. And we'll come in here. We'll go to add and we'll add the trim paths again, and we're going to build out a nice motion graphic object here. So trim paths are one of my favorite effects here. So we'll add a keyframe for start. We'll set it down to 100% and we come here for like 2 seconds, and then we'll set the start percentage down to 0%. And we'll do the same thing with the end percentage here. Add a keyframe there. Go past the last keyframe and set it down to 0%. So now we just have this here like that, and then we can grab our keyframes. Easy keyframes. So now we just have something like this and it looks fine, and then we'll do here is we'll grab the pan behind tool and we'll move our anchor point to the center of our composition. So we'll come here and just make sure this is directly in the center, and we come here, duplicate our shape layer 1, hit R, and keyboard rotation. We can rotate this just like this, so now these will be exactly apart from each other just like so, and then we can duplicate this again. We can type on our keyboard here, we can ask on our keyboard as well. Scale it down. We can even grab the selection tool here at the top and just lower the stroke with here. We can even hit you on the keyboard for bringing the keyframes, and we can bring in last 2 keyframes to speed this up if we want to. And this is just a cool way to quickly vary the same objects and just to really build out an entire scene. Very quick, duplicate it. Scale it out. Maybe we'll even make the stroke even smaller, and in a very quick fashion. We were able to build out this entire motion graphic element just by duplicating the shapes here and using the basic transform tools. And of course, when it's all said and done, here is our entire motion graphic elements combined together. And it really spices up this basic title animation and has a lot of detail to our overall composition. Then of course you can go in here and change the colors individually. We didn't do that just because it's just a basic demo, and it looks like we just put a lot of work into what would be a very basic title animation. There are 4 motion graphic techniques that we'll be talking about in this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and are able to apply these to your own motion graphic projects in the future. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post motion graphics tutorials every week right here on the channel, so hit that subscribe button. You can also hit me up on my social media networks. Those links are in the video description, and always being creative.